Hi, my name is Citrix. I'm an end-user computing and virtualization expert. In this video, I want to show you how to install a test and proof-of-concept environment based on Citrix XenClient Enterprise 5. The design goal of XenClient Enterprise is to deploy centrally managed virtual machines to laptops and PCs. So here are my XenClient lab setup steps. I installed XenClient Engine, then I installed XenClient Synchronizer. I installed and published two virtual machines, one with Windows 7 and the other with Windows 8. Finally, I started the two VMs on the client machine and installed some additional software. So step 1 was to install XenClient Engine on one of the machines I use for testing. I selected a white label PC with an Intel reference mainboard, a Core i7 CPU, 32GB of RAM and a 240GB solid-state disk. The information required during installation is language, keyboard layout, accepting the license agreement, the target disk, the computer name, an asset tag, if or if not disk encryption is to be used, and finally a confirmation to continue with the installation. The XenClient Engine installer puts the Type 1 open source Xen hypervisor and some additional components on the client PC. XenClient Engine lets users run multiple local virtual desktops simultaneously but completely isolated of each other. My particular use case is to create centrally managed VMs I can use from test clients in my lab. Here you see the XenClient Engine UI when the installation is complete. Now let's switch to the backend side, which is XenClient Synchronizer. It enables my PC running XenClient Engine to download centrally managed virtual machines and run them locally. The server on which Synchronizer is installed runs Windows Server 2012 with Hyper-V enabled. The installation of Synchronizer is straightforward. Basically, you need to select an installation type, server name and description, an installation directory, Tomcat configuration, SSL certificate information, where you can use the IP address, an administrator account, and the configuration selection of the database. The installation options I selected will allow me to run my test environment in standalone mode, meaning it's not member of a Windows domain. When the XenClient installation is complete, central management is done from the Synchronizer Management Web Console. I can log on with the administrator credentials I created during Synchronizer installation. Now I want to create a Windows 7 and a Windows 8 VM and prepare them for usage on my PC with XenClient Engine. This requires to import the operating system ISO files I copied to the Synchronizer /file import folder previously. Here you can see how I add a Windows 7 ISO to the software library. Now you can see how the Windows 7 ISO was added to ISO media. The next step is that I do the same with the Windows 8 ISO. Now I have everything that is required to build the master Windows 7 image. To do so, I need to select virtual machines in the navigation panel on the left side. On clicking Create in the Action panel, a wizard starts. This wizard allows me to provide VM name, OS type, and finally the ISO I just imported minutes ago. Step 2 is to specify the usage mode. For my particular use case, I want to be able to deploy master images from a central location to test PCs and laptops, but preserve any individual changes I do when testing. In step 3, I increase the amount of memory to 4 GB and leave all the other settings as they are. I also keep the default policies. The final step is to allow the VM to start right after it is created. When the VM starts, I can go through all the regular installation steps of Windows 7. I just did a custom installation . And on reboot, I have a fully installed standard Windows 7 instance. Next, I did exactly the same with Windows 8. But for the sake of time, this video does not include all installation steps. Now, I need to create a local user that will later be assigned to one or more VMs. It's a good idea if this user account name and password are identical to a user account you created when installing the Windows 7 and Windows 8 master images. Now it's time to publish the virtual machine. Only when a VM is published, it can be deployed to a PC or laptop with the XenClient engine installed. Before publishing a VM, make sure that it's shut down. See the publishing of Windows 7 first. And then see the publishing for Windows 8. Here we go. Both VMs are published now. The final step is to assign a user or a group to each published virtual machine. Now everything is ready to use the VMs on a virtual machine with XenClient engine. On the PC with XenClient Engine up and running, I wanted to see first if I am able to connect to Synchronizer. As you can see, it's possible to use the IP address of the Synchronizer host instead of a fully qualified name. Next, I registered the PC and assigned the user. The user is the same I previously created in the Synchronizer Management Console. As soon as the registration succeeds, we are done with the configuration side of things. And now the two VMs that are assigned to the users are available. From this moment on, it's only a matter of selecting and starting a VM. In my new XenClient-based test environment, I launched the Windows 8 VM first. As you can see, everything works really smooth. I'm automatically logged on using the credentials that I used during the installation. And performance is really good. Finally, I wanted to do some serious stuff. In other words, I wanted to do some performance testing in the same way I do it for virtual desktop environments. This makes a lot of sense if you regard XenClient as an offline version of XenDesktop. This time, I decided to use the Windows 7 VM. By the way, use the hotkeys Control and down arrow to open the XenClient Engine Display Launcher and switch between VMs. Alt and End opens the control panel. In order to install my test software, I needed to plug in a USB drive. Just watch the system what it does on plugging in the drive. As you can see, it works like a charm. See how the test software installs on the Windows 7 VM. Keep in mind that the VM is configured to preserve all changes I make. So my test installation is persistent and it survives a reboot of the XenClient Engine PC. Now I was able to start with my tests. The results will be available in an upcoming video. But what is the takeaway at this stage? XenClient Enterprise 5 is a great product to build test environments, but it can also be used to run XenDesktop VMs in a local mode on PCs and laptops.